guys, and welcome back to the Unfiltered Gamer Kickstarter board game review. Today's game on the tabletop is called ELO Darkness. ELO Darkness is by Reggie Games, and it is for 2 or 4 players. In ELO Darkness, you're going to be playing a MOBA-style board game. Now, what is that exactly? Well, a MOBA is basically a lane game in which you're going to be choosing a team of champions, and your opponent or opponents are going to be choosing a team of champions. There are 5 different types of champions. You got marksman, a brawler, a fighter, jungler, support, and a mage. These are the 5 different types. And you get one of each, and there's lanes in the game. You got the top, middle, and bottom lanes of the game, and each lane has towers, and you're trying to destroy those towers in the lane. As you destroy towers in the lane, you're going to be pushing the minions you have that are working for you, as opposed to fighting the minions that are working against you, along with your champions trying to progress your lane as far up as you can to destroy the enemy's main base. If you can do that, you're going to win the game. Now, in ELO Darkness, this is the board game variant, and is very similar in play strategy as you would see to any of the regular MOBA games online, such as Champions of Norath, the World of Warcraft version one, the Blizzard one. You've got League of Legends, you've got Dota and Dota 2. There are Smite, there's a ton of them, right? But not a lot of board game style MOBAs. This one specifically is actually going to be partially, you're going to be building your deck with neutral cards as well as the different type of character cards. So you've got all these basic neutral cards, and you've got a bunch of different separate mage cards to choose from. And they have basic sets where you can actually build yourself. You can choose to use their variants or build your own, as well as item cards you can purchase throughout the game to increase your character's abilities, as well as things that are going to help you throughout the game. They're going to involve your influence, which is your attack, as well as your speed and all the other good stuff. And in the game, this one specifically, you're going to be doing the same thing you would in a MOBA game, but you're going to be using pawns to push your lane forward. And you're going to need to defend certain lanes from the enemy's attack, as well as pushing other lanes to influence your victory on that specific lane. And the idea of the game is the same. Get to the end of the board, destroy your opponent's tower, and win the game. Alright, let me go ahead and show you what ELO Darkness looks like. So here is the game of ELO Darkness, and as you can see, there's a lot of components. I'm going to go ahead and try and run them all down for you so you have a good idea of how many things are in the game and what you can do. First of all, there are different characters throughout the game, and they're all different types, right? You've got junglers, and you got marksmen. Over here is mages, and this is fighters, and then you got support, and each of them have their own unique areas on the board. Some of them are pushing lanes, other ones are supporting from the background or in the jungle of the game. And you're going to make your own deck. Luckily for us, the game already had its own decks already set up for us, so we're going to be using that specific deck for this game. But we also have item cards, in which we've also kind of already set up just to make life easier. But there's a ton of additional items throughout the game that you can go ahead and set up for your own, so that these are the ones that you're able to buy or purchase throughout the game until later, where you'll be able to put them on your board. Various different tokens, as well as the greed shit over here, which is going to be used during fighting for the most part. You've got coins over here to purchase items, as well as use them for your cards. You've got free lane and roaming cards, which are front and back and will be used throughout the game if you don't have laners or can't push the field up, or don't want to, I suppose. Over here is a bunch of different unique neutral cards that will be used throughout your deck, and these cards over here are cards that were going to spawn. They're like boss cards that you'll see. Here's one, Bevla the Ancient, that will pop up as the game's events take place on this board here, as players change positions on the board, flipping over for who gets to go first every round until the very end of the game, where the super minions start to push. You got influence tokens over here, and then obviously these spots over here represent the items we'll be using for this specific game. Taking a look over on this side of the board over here, we've got the deck where we'll be placing here. These are where I place our items that we buy, as well as the lane spaces on the board. This is where we put cards for our specific lanes during the phase in which we're going to be fighting with, as well as this is the tracker indicating whose turn it is based on flipping it one side or the other, whose team's turn it is. And when every round is over, you flip it over, and it'll be the next player who gets to start with the initiative, as well as the next round. And getting onto these spots is when the bosses and the minions start to spawn. Over here, we've got your laners, as well as the red lane, blue, and yellow. These are your specific laners. This is the marksman, mage, and the fighter, and they're going to be pushing up these lanes, which will be destroying these towers here. As you see, these tower chits are in the board, as well as the mage lane, the fighter lane, where you'll be just pushing, trying to get through, as well as you get your support here and your jungler. These 3 spots are used whenever your guys have to go back, for whatever reason. They might need to go back and buy or whatever, just like in the original game. It doesn't necessarily work like that, but the same principle in the matter. You're also going to have chits over here, which will represent bidding. Whenever these bosses spawn, you're going to be trying to bid via cards in your hand to get the bosses to fight. to take them, and you'll have to be discarding cards from your hand based on this bidding aspect of the game. And finally, over here represents the experience of your characters. So you actually can have your characters level up by discarding cards or playing specific cards. You're going to level up to level 1, level 1 to level 2, and then to level 3, which will give your characters a bit of a fighting boost throughout the game. As well as the game board. This is the 2-player game board, and there is a 4-player game board in the game, but we only have the 2-player, so we're only going to be talking about that specific aspect of this game. But this is what mainly comes in the game, ELO Darkness, along with the rulebook and the box. So now you see the basic setup as well as all the components in ELO Darkness. Obviously this is a prototype, so things may change, but this is what it is for right now. Is what I got. Now in the game we're going to start with 7 cards, and you're going to, on the first I don't think you draw, but on the second, every other round you draw 2 cards, and you have your hand size at 5, you draw 2 cards and get to 7 anyway, so you just start with 7. You're going to be discarding heroes to do specific abilities and stuff like that. Sometimes if you don't want the specific cards, they're going to have, the heroes are different than the neutral. The neutral are actually going to be black, different. They're not going to be colored in the same way the heroes are. So this guy here is the mage card. In the upper left-hand corner of the card, it will show you what you can do when you discard him if you don't want to use him for that specific round. Sometimes you'll get to take a gold, other times you get to take a card or draw 2 cards or draw 2 gold, depending on the card that you're discarding. After you do that, everybody's going to go ahead and decide what cards they want to keep, what cards they don't want to keep. You're then going to go on to the round phase, basically, where you're going to be moving, you're going to be placing cards down onto the lanes, so the little lane areas on the board, which I showed you already. Red to red, yellow, yellow, blue to blue. Everybody's going to do that at the same time, and then the player who starts will decide which lane starts, and where you're going to place the different lane cards. You can select characters that are of the same color, or the neutral cards to be placed on those lanes. Every time you play a character card, that little character chit you have on the board will be flipped over after it has been utilized, so you'll be able to utilize it in future, in the round in the future, because there's 3 different parts to the round as far as fighting goes, and you're placing these cards down, and you say, okay, after you place the cards down, now you're going to say, I'll start fighting the red, and we'll both do red, and then we'll both do my next lane, which is blue or yellow, whatever I decide. After all 3 lanes have concluded the combat, then everything pretty much refreshes after you move minions up, blow up the towers to get a bunch of special effects. You can buy items at the beginning of the round. Fairly simple, though, fairly MMO style of the game. I just want to give you a basic overview of how it kind of works. I think I'll show you, and it'll make a little bit more sense. Okay, so now everything is set up like before I had made it, so it's fairly easy. All the towers are set up, all the characters set up. Your XP tokens over here, your round token, which determines who's going to go first and second. This is blue, this is red. We'll start with the blue since it's on we'll start on the red since it's on your side to make it easier. Just like that. We have the gold over here. Nobody starts with gold, but you have your items you can buy, which are on the sides over here. We have all the extra characters and neutral cards, which we will not be using because we've already gone ahead and made our decks as well as selected the items that we can buy. And so all we have is our gold and our influence over here, different tokens we might be using throughout the game, and the greed token, okay? So the first thing everybody is going to do is you're going to take 7 cards from the deck after the decks have been shuffled. So there's 7 here, and 7 for red as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 cards. After that, then you're going to go ahead and check for the round events. These are the different round events that will take place. It starts here, and after this whole round has been concluded, the round marker will switch and go like that, and we'll check for round events. Obviously, it comes here, here, and then these 3 spots. These are the boss markers here. After that, we're then going to discard our hero cards. We can't discard neutrals, but we can discard hero cards. And all the heroes that we discard or choose to discard, we're going to get an XP for that, only 1 per hero that we discard, as well as the effect of the card. So up here, if you notice, this is a Wings of Revenge card. This is Pinch, the Jungler. If you discard this card, you would get 2 gold. So if I didn't want this card, I would simply put it in my discard pile, and that would let me have 2 gold, and I would be able to keep that and spend it on whatever I specifically want. It might even be some items. I could also choose any of these other guys here as well. I could discard this support hero, which will give me 2 cards. So that's cool. Let me draw 2 cards. And we would actually do it all at the same time. We would choose which ones we wanted to discard them all, and draw them up together. And the same thing would go for this other player over here. He would look at his hand, and they have different, obviously, different things. You draw 2 cards, 2 gold, a card or a gold, card or a gold. This is a nice hand. It's got a full plethora of different things. I think I'll just go ahead and get rid of this guy here. So we discard this card here. Let me draw a card as opposed to gold. Perfect, I got an ambush card. Your opponent is threatened. That's a really cool card. And it's a gank card, which I'll explain later. Alright, so we've gone ahead and discarded our cards. We'll check to see which cards we've discarded. We've got green and white over here. So green and white would move up on the experience tracker, and blue over here would move up on the experience tracker, just like that. And after we've gone ahead and done that, we will then decide if the main player is going to be placing their cards down. So I'd be the main player, and I would say if I want to, if I need to, I can go back. And going back is basically retreating. I wouldn't be able to use that. I wouldn't be able to basically play a card that is the character type here. So instead, I would actually take a roaming card here, and I'd place it here. Whenever that happens, both players would have to do that, and I would actually lose out. The person who can't play the card here, wants to do his roaming thing, would actually have to lose out on one of his towers, and it would explode. And in which case, at the end of the round, the player who had to destroy the tower, because this is red's towers and this is blue, would then get 2 gold or get 2 cards. So you don't want your towers destroyed because your opponent will benefit from that. So you could choose to do the roaming if you wanted. Otherwise, though, you gotta say, okay, which cards do I want to play? And you can play either a neutral or a card of the same color. Green cards and white cards are cards that cannot be played. They cannot be played face down. They are actually gank cards or assist cards. However, if I want to, I can start with putting a yellow one right there, and then a blue one right there. And we'd be doing this all at the same time together. And then I don't have a red card, but I happen to have a laner card here, which is a peeling card, draw a card, and the opponent must discard a card from his hand. So I'll put that right there just like that. And then I would do the same thing on my side at the same time. I'd pick a red card and a yellow card, and if I had a blue card, I don't, but luckily I have laner cards. I also have another peeling on this side, and I put that just like that. After I've gone ahead and done that, then the main player is going to decide which cards we start by flipping over. So he'll just decide to start with this one right here. Peeling. All right, so I would also flip over mine. Golden Tears. This one has the influence of 1. This has an influence of 1 as well. We could also do the abilities. This one says draw a card, and then the opponent has to discard a card from their hand. So I just find a card I don't want, and then I'd have to discard it. We'll go with Warding. This will go away. Okay, then this card over here, the Golden Tears card, it says gain 1 gold for each support card in your discard pile. I have 1 support card in my discard pile, so I would gain an additional gold. Now, before all this happened, I could have, if I wanted to, buy stuff with my gold here, but I'm going to go ahead and save it and show you a little bit later. And then, after this, we both have 1 influence. Now, in order to destroy your opponent, you have to do 4 more influence than they have done total. So 1, I would need to have a 5 here to do that. Because we're equal, nothing happens. If I was above the opponent, like 2 compared to his 1, that would mean I would push up and destroy this tower over here. Or vice versa. If he had 2 and I had 1, he would destroy my tower. And that's how you're pushing the lanes through on this game. Also, in your hand, you have gank cards more than likely, and you can play gank cards, provided you have them, to assist in your character doing certain things. You can also get the greedy token if you want, but that would mean you become threatened. And threatened means if your opponent is at least 1 higher than you, they can kill you, as opposed to the 4. And killing you actually takes your character, makes him go back here, like I had showed. It would make the character back here, flip it over just like that, and I wouldn't be able to use, the character who died wouldn't be able to use their card for the next phase, the next round of the game. So it's very dangerous to do it, but it can benefit you. Let's see, does this guy have a gank card? He does. I could play a gank card right here, which make him go to +2. Exhaust an opponent's hero of your choice. So maybe I could choose to exhaust blue over here, which is great. Now blue cards can't be played as ganks or anything like that, so it's pretty powerful. Also, 2 would beat my 1, which would then push the lane up to just right here, and this tower would get destroyed. And we would do the same for all the rest of them. When we go to blue, and then we would go to yellow, or whatever the main player wanted to do. And based on whoever had the most influence is going to be the person who destroys the towers. So who knows how it would go. Maybe it would go like this. After you would go ahead and do that, after you had choose either to chain an ability, play a gank, or get greedy, or use activate an item card. So I could have bought some of these item cards that would help me increase my influence or whatever. Then after that, both players are going to pass, resolve the lanes, and exhaust all heroes that have fought for the round. So as you would go through, maybe you would use all your characters except for the green guy here. And if I had any green cards in my hand, let's see if I can find one here. Like this guy here, that's a gank card. I can simply play it, and it might boost my character by 1. And when I would do that, I would have to flip him over as well. Now, after that has resolved, all the cards would get removed, and they would go to their respective discard piles here. And you keep the cards in your hand. Then you would go ahead and gain XP for the different cards you've played. If you played all the different cards, all the different types of cards, you would move them all up. If you only played certain ones, you would only move those certain ones up. It would depend on the cards you played. So the two ways you gain XP is when you're discarding at the beginning and when you're playing the cards during the fighting aspect of the game. Afterwards, you're going to then draw cards or gold, depending on what towers you destroyed. So this player over here had destroyed one tower. So he would choose to draw maybe 2 cards. Maybe he would take 2 gold. He would take 2 gold, I suppose. Then he would go, this character destroyed 2. So he would actually get to draw 4 cards, or take 2 gold, or take 4 gold, or any combination. So he would take 2, and even more gold. This guy's getting rich over here. Then all heroes will simply refresh that were exhausted, just like that, and put them back in the lanes. If they were killed, then they would stay exhausted, and they would be put in this nasty place over here, or I guess over here technically is where they go. And they wouldn't be able to be used. Their cards wouldn't be able to be used for the next round. Then you're going to discard down to 5 cards here, and keep this 5 here. And after that, you would move on to the next round. You'd flip over the tracker, and that would indicate that blue is now the person who's going to be taking their actions first, or being the first player, so to speak. And we would draw 2 cards. Everybody go back to their 7 card, more than likely, maybe more, maybe a little less, but you get your 2 cards at least. And you would simply start over again. Now, I'll go ahead and, that's the basic idea of a turn, right? And there are different tokens that involve different characters. At the beginning of turns, you can buy some items here, and I'll go ahead and explain a couple of them, like desert boots here. And there's 2 types, right? You got the basic type and then the evolved version. And up here on the top left-hand corner is going to be the cost of desert boots. And when you return from the desert lane, you draw 2 cards instead of 1, which is the yellow lane. So that's pretty cool. Instead of when you go back, you would normally get to draw a card from your deck, but in this instance, you get to draw 2 cards. And you could evolve it by spending an additional 3 here, and then you get Boots of Strength, which is the same benefit, but also, fighters cards gain +1 influence when played as ganks. So fighters can be played as ganks, specifically if they returned, or if they hadn't been used before. That would be an extra 1 influence for that. And when you buy cards, you simply just put them up here. And this all takes place right after drawing 2 cards and before placing the cards down here for fighting. Okay. There's a couple other cards too. There's some really powerful ones like this owl drone here. This one says here you can pay up to 3 gold and to gain 1 influence for each gold you spend. And you can only use it once a turn, and it also tells you in the bottom area what lane this card can be used in. Certain cards can be used in only certain lanes. And the evolved version has actually gained 2 for each gold you spend, up to 3, which can be up to 6 influence, which is super, super powerful. And there's tons and tons of items. So that is something else you can do. When you level up characters to level 1 and 2, level 2 and 3, level 2 is going to give you +1 influence for any card of that type that you play, and level 3 is going to give you +2 influence of any type of card that you play. You also have the monsters, so after the 4th round, it goes flip and then flip. You are going to flip over a monster card, and this right here is Believe the Ancient, which is reward 2 of your heroes gain +3 experience points. That's pretty solid. Now, all you're going to do is you're going to have a certain amount of cards in your hand, and based on those cards, you'll have a certain amount of these black chits here before you draw your 2 cards, which is a max of 5. You could maybe have 4 cards in your hand, or 5, whatever. Each you and your opponent would then just choose how many you want to hold, and he would go ahead and choose how many he wants to hold, and then you would release. So if he chose 4, and I chose 3, he would actually get the effect of this card, which is gain 3 experience, or 2 experience for 2 heroes. So that'd be pretty solid. Just like that, you just move up like that. This card would get used, and this player would have to discard 4 cards from his hand for the cost, which can be fairly deadly for them because they're only going to get to draw the extra 2 cards, while your opponent might have more cards. However, that experience might help as well. That's just a basic bidding system. When the super minions spawn in the end of the game, or the very close to the end of the game, over here, it shows that pushing gets even stronger. So instead of pushing 1 space, it would push 2 if you won. And then the final one is it would push 3 if you won. Very, 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 very powerful. And then, yeah, just the basic deck construction of the game. And the idea is every round you're trying to progress the marker closer to your opponent's tower. After you get to this spot here, or any of these 3 spots here, with any of the lanes, the next time you win and get into here, you have won the game of ELO Darkness, and that is the idea of how you play it. Okay, so now a little caveat on the game, obviously that's how you play it, but there is a deck building aspect to it, or a team building aspect of the game. Like I had shown before, there is a large amount of different characters, support fighters, and all that kind of stuff. All you do is choose one of each of the 5 different types. Any of them will work, and they come with a plethora of different characters. And the characters are technically just cards, right, that you're going to be drawing from the deck. And you're going to get, I believe it's 4 or 5 cards of each different type of character. You're also going to get about 15 cards of unique neutral cards. We make about a deck of about 45 cards. You're going to get 5 different types of items that you can choose from the big plethora of items as well. And each item has its own upgraded item that you can purchase, or that you can actually upgrade to. So you're going to get basically 5 items, but it goes about to 10, right? And that, I think, is the basic idea of how you can do some deck construction as well as the character, the team building aspect of the game, which is really, really unique and interesting, and it does feel like a little bit of a MOBA, especially the fact that everybody's choosing your teams. And the 2-player variant is the only one I've played because I don't have the 4-player variant, but I assume in the team building aspect, in the 4-player game, you would actually be like selecting champions like a champion select would be doing. Anyway, let me go and tell you my what I feel about this game, ELO Darkness. So the first thing I want to go out and say is ELO Darkness is a MOBA board game in which I haven't seen before. I've never seen a MOBA board game in action. There might be some, but I haven't seen it yet, so it's very, very unique to me. However, I'm a big MOBA fan and have played League of Legends for many, many years and worked with Riot Games on a couple things. And they are great people, and they make a great MOBA, and ELO Darkness did one really well as well. They made the aspects of the video game into a board game with the use of mechanics, that pushing mechanic where you're fighting instead of actually trying to deal with minions and all that kind of stuff. Instead, it's kind of an influence battle between the 3, and it's a tug-of-war effect. The game works well in that aspect. The art is amazing. I mean, it's not all there, as you could tell. There's some artwork that's still either in black and white or not there yet. But what is here looks great. I was impressed, very, very impressed with the artwork of this game. The feel of the game does feel like a video game. I know there's a lot of video games out there that transformed into board games, which were not as the community wasn't as happy with. And I think this one, if you're a MOBA video game player, you're going to be a fan of this as well, because it does work very well. It doesn't feel like it slows down at any point. A lot of the stuff is simultaneous play, so you are going ahead, somebody gets to choose which one of the lanes you fight in first, but all the lanes are fought at the same time, and you're going back and forth playing cards to increase your influence, decrease your opponents, gaining gold, playing items, all this great stuff. Not only that though, but I was interested in seeing how they were going to introduce the jungler as well as the support and the monsters in the jungle variant and all that kind of stuff. And I was pleasantly surprised as well. The jungler and the support work in kind of the same fashion, but the jungler has more of an offensive aspect to it, or a gold aspect, whereas the support is more of a protective aspect in the game. But they play like ganks. You're going to be playing them down on the different lanes and exhausting the characters as you use them. The jungler can kind of gank out into one lane, and it really works. It really feels like my jungler's going into another lane and attacking that lane, and it does help, definitely. In fact, that could be the deciding factor in a fight. But also the aspect of Baron or whatever, this is really interesting to me as well. The cards here, as the rounds progress, the turns progress, and at a certain point you're going to be fighting these monsters by doing a bidding war, which is really unique mechanism that I didn't think they'd actually involve in. I thought they were going to do something with influence, but it turns out that they just did a discarding parts from your hand, which are so vital. And it does work with the theme as well. The art is really cool. You can see these big dragon-like cards that you know, it works. It really works. I had a lot of fun with it. I'm trying to think of something I can say. I think one thing we ran into, one negative I could find specifically regarding this game, was that some of the cards feel very, very, very powerful. I know that there's powerful cards on both ends, but there's ones like Owl Drone, where you can pay up to 3 gold and get a +1 influence for the battle on a red lane, and then the bigger Armor Drone gets you +2. That would give you +6 influence. And most of the cards in here only give you maybe 1 to 4 influence max, even at the best cards. So there are some really, really powerful items in the game that are definite must picks in it. Influence markers and all that works. The gold works. Yeah, and it just flows. I mean, if you like the MOBA style video games, I think this is going to be one for you. If you like a game that involves hand management, the tug-of-war aspect, even if you haven't played a MOBA, I think this also would work. Higher end strategy game, probably not good for younger players, probably not really a family game, a full-on tactical strategy game. And I think 2 players was was solid. There's not a lot of games I like, specifically like way up there, that I find a really good two-player experience, but this one was so much back and forth fun, players getting excited about ganking other players and all that kind of stuff. It just worked. I'm very, very thrilled to say that I liked ELO Darkness. I had high hopes, and I was rewarded with a great game. ELO Darkness. Alright guys, thanks for watching the Unfiltered Gamer Kickstarter board game review. If you like this review, you can go check out the rest of our videos here on YouTube. Like, subscribe, and comment. It all helps. As well as checking out ELO Darkness, which is currently on Kickstarter right now. The game is the mobile board game that I always wanted, and now is currently here. So I'm excited about that. Please fix a couple of the overpowered cards, though. That's my only thing with the game. I'm sure it will. It's a Kickstarter game right now, so we have a prototype, so... But that was my main quorum. Anyway, other than that though, thank you, and go ahead and check out our website, unfilteredgamer.com. Tons of board game reviews, Kickstarter lists, and Kickstarter list giveaways. We're currently doing one for Vigilantes, Villains and Vigilantes, so go ahead and check that out. It's free. Just click a couple buttons and get some good stuff. As well as checking out our featured websites, everythingboardgames.com, the Giveaway Geek, and devitosgaming.com. They got tons of blog posts, giveaways, Kickstarter lists, and more. If you like them, I definitely suggest you go check them out, especially giveaways. They got tons of them. Alright guys, well that is it for this episode of Unfiltered Gamer Reviews. I look forward to checking you later.